Thank you, Diego, for this kind introduction. So when I saw the schedule, because we are in competition with a presentation for about Llama 4, I thought that it was a challenge to have a lot of people, because as you know, probably Llama 4, we have a lot of things to know about this model and a lot of questions. So probably we have a lot of person on this session. But I will try to do my best here for you. So yes, because we will speak about truly an entire and fully open source model. For us, open source model is not open weight model. We will discuss about that deeply, and probably the main part of my talk will discuss about the open data set strategy we put in our ambition. So, as Diego said, I was involved for many years in free software and open source technology. So we started this company called Linagora 25 years ago. We are an open source provider. Dedicated especially on collaborative and messaging solution, and probably as a lot of software provider, we started a couple of years to have an interest on generative AI and AI technology. So on part, just two things if you want to get the QR code. The first, it's my personal first book I wrote in 2024, because I was also a dreamer about a world where humans and technologies and AI system could have a future and very balanced and positive future. Because as you know, a lot of things, Black Mirror, some 80s movies are many based on dystopia and something that everything will go wrong with this technology. So my point of view is very different. It's only on French, but if you're interested, you can get this book. And the second part, it's more interesting, I think, for our discussion today. It's a report we wrote at the end of 2024 with the Digital New Deal report. The title is Generative AI Unit or Summit. It's a document very interesting. You can download it in English. So it's the discussion about to get the proof that we are able in Europe to develop our own strategy and our own way on the generative field, AI field. And inside you will have some discussion and some insight about what we call the agentic AI. I'm sure that probably you have some question, and we can go on this topic if you want. And also the large part of the report explains that if we want to have autonomy and sovereignty in Europe, we have to manage our own technology, to not go on this race of gigantism, large language model, and to adopt different ways. And it's why we started with OpenLLM, the OpenLLM community, this ambition 2 years ago, and the first version of this model called LUCIE. I like to start my talk with this slide, because generative AI, it's not the same technology we had before, because these technologies are not neutral, and in my point of view, it's a way to give and to push soft power around the world. And because the large part of model we are using today on the generative AI area are not built in Europe, it's a major question of our dependence about and with this software provider, platform provider, hyperscalers, and also because I think so because a large part of this model are trained on English dataset, and as you know, large language models are and languages are not only words, sentence, grammatical things. our language is also our culture, our representation, our society, about our, preferences. And so I will just translate for people not aware with the French language. So this is a tool, Open Web UI. Probably you know this product. It's an open source product that you can use to test locally LLM. And so it's an area version of Open Web UI. You can have two for one prompt. You can have different answers from different models, and I compare there answers from Llama 3.1 and LUCIE, the version 1.1, the last version of our model. And when I ask for the first question, could you describe what is the African continent? The answer from Llama 3.1 is very simple. And you can test by yourself and several times. So you will have some differences, but it's very small answers and very not representative of what we want as European or French people in terms of answers. And on the left, you can see that LUCIE answers about the diversity, about the landscape, the beautiful landscape you have in Africa, about the jungles, about animals, and so on and so on. So you have a more completed and a more aligned answers with our culture and values. The second example, it's about the gender biases. The question here is, okay, could you complete this sentence? The nurse called the doctor and he or she and explain or justify the usage of the pronoun. If you consider the version of the right, it's very simple. The model say, okay, the nurse called le médecin, enfin, the doctor, and he answered because the justification or the justification of the pronoun was motivated by the fact that generally doctor is a man. Wow. I don't know for you, but for me it's a problem. And if you consider LUCIE, so we are more balanced answer, and I think that if we consider generative AI will have more and more impact in our daily life, probably you will prefer to use model trained as LUCIE than others. Okay? To train a model, so it's a complex task, and probably generally you have to manage three key components. The first, it's human resources, talent, people with expertise in deep learning, machine learning. For Linagora, we have today 20 employees dedicated for the training of LUCIE. But as I will explain after, so we work also with our community, because with 20% it's not enough to manage every topic you have to manage. For example, for the legal things, for data management, so you have to have many expertise on your team, and it's difficult when you are an open source company, when you want to have an open source model, or a truly open source model, and you consider that open source model or open source LLM is the same as an open protocol, an open standard, so we don't have an economic model based on the foundation model. So you have to imagine some other solution to have talents. So I will explain just after. The second part of my discussion with you this afternoon is about the dataset, because the entire dataset used to train LUCIE is released under a public and open source license, and it's a very big difference with other models. And the third part, it's related for GPUs and all the infrastructure, you need to train the model, but we are lucky, especially in France, but also in the Europe, because we have a lot of GPUs available. If you are committed to open source or open science project, it's very simple in France or even in Italy or in Spain. If you want to use academic GPUs infrastructure to train your model, if you are aware and committed to open source or open science project, you will have access very easy to train the model. Not to use, not to do the inference, but to train. It's very simple, and we have enough GPUs, because I heard a lot of things and several times that we are not able to train model in Europe because we don't have enough GPUs. It's wrong. It's not the reality. Okay, for the first part, so to extend our expertise, I have decided, and I started this community called OpenLLM Europe. We started with OpenLLM France in the summer 2023, but during the first DEM at the beginning of 2024, we have decided to scale up the community to go to the European level. So today inside this community, we have around 1,200 researchers, engineers, people inside company, private company, but mainly in public research center. And it's very important because, as you know, a lot of things are managed and lead by the academics on the generative AI fields. And it's very cool for us to manage things and to do things with these public researchers, and because it's complicated to handle all the things needed to train the model, but with the support of this community, we are able as a small company, because in Agora it's only 200 people. It's a small company in France. But with the support of the community, we are able to train and to have all the expertise needed to train the model. When I started, I pushed a manifesto on the GitHub. I started as I did before 2000, when I started the first French community about Linux and free software in France. But now it's more simple because you have internet, you have GitHub. So I push a manifesto, and I put these sentences on the manifesto. So the goal of this community is to build a generative AI, the digital commons, with trust, autonomy, and transparency. It's very simple. So we are doing good tech and good models for good things and good for goods for the planet, for humanity. So our goal is to develop first text and voices model. It's not possible for me at this time to train model for pictures, for video or images because of copyright things and the legal things in Europe. It's why Llama 4, for example, you are not authorized as a European citizen or European company to use it. About restriction, yes, of course. You have a restriction in terms of use if you are based on Europe. It's just because inside their data set, they put copyrighted or not content with which are not compliant with our regulation in Europe, to be very clear. Okay? So first, text and voice, because we have many data sets available to train on these fields. First, the second part, it's dedicated and to have more balanced model and train model mainly in French, but we had also the German, the Spanish, and the Italian in our model for the first. And we have chosen our own biases and preferences. Okay, as I explained before to you. So also the goal is to develop methodology to have good benchmark in French or in Italian, in German of the language, because a large part of the benchmark used today are based on English contents. So we have a lot of things and a lot of consideration about legal, ethical, and environmental aspect. I will explain just after. So we are not in the race to make bigger and bigger models. So we probably DeepSeek has shown that bigger is not always the best or the better. So today with sober and compact model, for me it's less than 24 billion of parameters. We can have good performance, enough performance for B2C use cases. And probably we can have a discussion about that. So our strategy is not to if you want to have small model, you can't have this vision of about knowledge model. And what we are doing, it's language model, because the most important is to manage and to manage well the language. For knowledge, we can use external system to add content and to add context, to add knowledge to the model. For example, retrieval augmented generation technology or AI agents that we able to connect to every system you can have on the enterprise and companies. So here you have some logo of our partners, main partners inside this community that we are using, and you have a picture of this supercomputer Jean-Zé. This is the computer we use to train the model. So we have grants from the French government to train this model. So just to be transparent and to have some figures about the cost of the training of this kind of model, we have a grant for 8 million euros for 2 years, excluding the cost of GPUs to train the model, okay? Because the cost of GPUs are not included because we use freely, and this public infrastructure managed by the GENCI agency in France, that this organization manage every public supercomputing system to train models. So our definition of what we call open source is very, very, very simple. But as probably you know, when you are using Mistral, when you are using Llama, when you are using Qwen, DeepSeek, you are not using real open source model. You are using open weight model. The main difference, it's just on the publication and the availability to have access to the training data set. And it's what we did. We publish the model, we have released the model at the end of 2024, the model, all the source code, but also the 3.1 trillion tokens used for the training phase as a public and open data set. Everything is available on the Hugging Face hub, and you have also the complete source code for the core part of the model available on our GitHub. So why we have to consider open weight models and 100 open source models? There is a lot of things to say on this slide, but for example, we discussed before about Llama 4. As I explained, so for example, Llama 4, you are not able to use it as when you are based on Europe. So it's a point to have in mind, because probably since a couple of weeks, so we know that under the Trump administration, we have to consider that a digital blackout is not only a a science fiction scenario. It could be a reality for European or other country. And for example, we start to see it by the restriction. And I think that the next version of all the model provided by US company will have more and more restriction for Chinese or European companies. So the second part, it's related to the source code availability. Probably you know that for Llama, for Mistral, you don't have a complete access to the source code or all the things related to the model. The best, in my point of view, even if I'm not sure, but probably you will be understand. You will be agree with me. DeepSeek has released a lot of things, not probably all the things, but it's a first step to have more and more transparency and more accessibility to the source code. It's better than what we could have with Llama or Mistral model, for example. So the main difference, as I explained before, it's the access to the training data set. And some features could be different between open weight model and the really open source model. I think the most important it's the choice about the inference and the hosting platform you want to use, because, for example, for sensitive customer in France and Europe, you want to have models and data provided and located in European data centers and based on the Europe area. To understand how it's complex to build this kind of large language model, I can explain a lot of things on this slide, but just to consider that to train all the model, it's between 12 and 14 months. But the large part of the work, as you can see, it's to collect and to clean and to have this data set compliant with our regulation. So we started with our own data set, because we started, as Diego said before, in 2016 to have our AI technology related to speech-to-text technology and so on. So we started to collect some data from our meetings, from our experimentation, from our customers that are able to share the data with us. But it was only 600 billions of tokens. And it's not completely enough to train a small model, a small model like LUCIE. LUCIE, it's a 7 billion parameters model. It's very, very small, but we consider that it's too small in terms of data set. And it's why we have decided to have additional tokens provided by probably some data set Red Pyjama, Fine Web Edu comes from Hugging Face community. But we did a lot of work to clean this data set, because, for example, if you take Red Pyjama, it's a data set based on command crawl. If you open clearly the content of this data set, you have copyrighted content, you have newspapers content, and we spend a lot of time to do deduplication, to do cleaning, to use a heuristic process to clean the data. Because in our strategy, if you want to publish under a public license your data set, you have to be very clean and to be compliant with our regulation. So more than 10 months to build this data set. After 4 months to train the model, we use this Vision Z supercomputing 80 days long. It's around 600,000 hours of GPUs. And we spent only 1 month at the end just to build the first version of LUCIE with a very, very little instruction. It's not enough today, and you will see in our evaluation and benchmark. So if you are interested to have all the secret sauce, or it's for us, it's not. It's probably better to say open source, but the secret sauce is completely available. It's available in our academic paper, so you can download it from archive website or from the Hugging Face space for OpenLLM. So you have everything inside. It's 50 pages, and probably 30 pages are dedicated to the dataset, because a large part of our work was dedicated to the dataset. The dataset, so you have some representation here. So you have in colors the different languages we manage. And it's important to see that French represents 40% of the entire complete data set. When, for example, when you have a look on the Llama 2 academic paper, the French is less 1% of the data set. It's the same for the German. For French, it's 0.16, and I think German, it's 0.17. It's completely ridiculous, and okay, probably you can say, okay, but probably Llama has more data than you. Okay, it's true, but just 5 times more. Okay, we trained LUCIE with 3.1 trillion of tokens. Llama 2 and Llama 2 Llama 3, excuse me, was trained with 15 trillion of token. So it's why when we discuss, when you use LUCIE, you have better French, better understanding. It's normal because the model was trained mainly on these languages. As you can see, for example, for math and for programming, it's not, you don't have to consider LUCIE. We didn't train LUCIE right now to do mathematics or to do programming things, okay? We will do on the second version, because we will start a new training phase at the end of 2025. But right now, don't use LUCIE to do mathematics. It's very, it's not relevant, and it will not consider their answers as good answers. So we train our own tokenizer, and because probably you know, when you use API from OpenAI in French, you pay 30% more than if you put the same prompt in English. So we try to have a fair approach, and probably it's difficult to add more and more language in our tokenizer right now, but for the 4 main languages used in Europe, we try to have a fair approach, and when we are using our API, you can consider if you ask in French or in German or in Italian, you have to pay, or you have to manage the same amount of token. Here you have a view on the pre-training phase on the Janzé supercomputer. It's it's around 80 days on 512 GPUs H100. It's the best hardware to train model today, and it costs around 600,000 of GPUs hours. In terms of evaluation of benchmarks, so I'm obliged to show this benchmark, but it's not relevant. I prefer to be very clear with you at the starting point, because probably all the benchmarks are mainly based in English. languages. And we consider, and you have on the points here, the colors, we compare something different because LUCIE, the blue point, is LUCIE without any supervised learning for instruction understanding. It's the foundation model without any post-training phase. And we compare with the standard model that we can consider with the same size or the same number of parameters, but for Llama, for Mistral, for Falcon, because they didn't release the foundation model, they only publish the model with the instruction and the supervised learning phase. We compare something different. But it's interesting to see that we are not far away to this model. And the blue line, you can see here, the blue line, it's our checkpoints, because during the training phase, we every 25,000 steps, we fix a checkpoint. Everything, all the checkpoints are available also in our Hugging Face, excuse me, and we can have a look of the evaluation of the training of LUCIE, and it's interesting to see how all the evolution speed up different benchmark. The most known, it's MMLU, measure massive multitask language understanding. Just for the record, now with the last version of LUCIE, we are at 0.5. When DeepSeek is around 0.92, and probably ChatGPT 03 is around 0.9. Okay, but it's only on question and multiple answers and in English. So for me, it's not completely relevant in terms of content and benchmark. And it's why we are developing our own benchmark for the French, for the Italian, for the German, for the European languages to be more efficient. And for example, here you have the evaluation for the mathematics. As you can see, we are very low. It's normal because during the pre-training phase, we don't put enough data to train LUCIE on this kind of content. It's why we consider to change our training data set and training data mix for the next version of LUCIE to be more efficient on mathematics and programming things. So we have some evaluation for the French, and on the different European language we have in the model. So we can move forward. LUCIE is completely available on GitFace, not only the model but also the dataset, as I explained before. You can use it through Ollama or LM Studio. It's completely integrated, and you can download the LUCIE version of LUCIE, quantization of LUCIE for GPUs, for small GPUs, for CPUs, for NPUs. It's for example, on my own laptop, it's a MacBook M1. I'm totally, I can completely use LUCIE as a local model without any difficulty and any troubles. And I'm around between 15 and 25 tokens per second. So it's enough for my personal use. Probably it's enough also for you. The technical roadmap for 2025. So we work a lot of, as I said, on to improve the performance and the accuracy of the model by on the supervised learning for instruction understanding, because on this part there is no data set available to do this task. So we are doing the work to build this data set. I think it will be a good contribution for all the open source community, Because, for example, probably you know Apalca, but Apalca, it's not compliant with our regulation. And probably, you know, if you go to the Apalca space on the Hugging Face, you will see that you can use it as it, but it didn't respect the term of use of ChatGPT, because all the data sets used for the instruction understanding phase are based on distillation from models, but term of use are not. You can't do that, for example, for this model. Now, for example, for the last version of Mistral, because now this model are available on Apache v2 license, we can do distillation for this model and to be compliant on the term of use of the model, and probably it's what we are doing now to make this data set completely open and completely in compliance with our regulation. The second part, it's related to RAG, because LUCIE is not a knowledge model, it's a language model. And if we want to have accuracy answers, so we have to connect LUCIE with external system. So we will release in 2 weeks or 3 weeks a new project called Ragondin. Ragondin, it's this beautiful animal. I don't know the right words in English to be very clear, but just Ragondin, just for retrieval augmented generation. Well, we are not very good in marketing, for sure, but it's cute, and probably the main things and the main features you will have in Ragondin, it's to have a complete pipeline. You will have different pipeline for the injection of the document inside the vector databases, depending of the type of the document. And probably, for example, for Excel document, for spreadsheet, we manage very well values, and we are able to find the good chunk related to the right cellule or cells or row and columns of the data. So it's very relevant. Have a look on Ragondin in 2 weeks. So it's completely available right now, but it's a pre-release version. Wait for 2 or 3 weeks. It will be better in terms of experience for you. We continue to work on the voice support, as I explained before, and we have also a complete process to build our own agentic framework, because in terms of economic model, as I said before, we don't have an economic model for the foundation model. And Linagora, as an open source company, we sell to our customer services, and probably RAG technology and agentic could be a good way for us to make revenues from the generative AI system. Just one word in terms of environmental footprint. The training of LUCIE costs around 31 tons of carbon dioxide, CO2. It's 12 times less than Llama 2 or Llama 3, so we are very proud of that. But it's also because we are using this beautiful supercomputing and very efficient supercomputing Janzé. So probably I can stop here. And if you want to join our community, you have 2 ways. So you can flash the QR code here to join our Discord community. And if you are interested to join a very beautiful and cool company, so we are based near Paris at ici Moulineau, and we are very happy to have you as LLMOps, data scientist. We are looking for project management system, project manager, and so on. So if you are interested, but don't hesitate to have a talk with me just after. Thank you.